Hey guys, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 14 of Couch to the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. On today's episode, I've got Archie Arsenic joining me in conversation revolving around the topic of a whole different world. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm loving it. The weather's really nice and sunny today, so I reckon after the podcast, I might even maybe hit the beach, or I might go in the backyard, get the towel out and just get a bit of a tan on.
Well, we are absolutely the opposite kind of people. I will not be going anywhere near the sun or the sand in the sun. But hey, nothing wrong with there's no such thing as a girly thing to do. So we can start right there.
Yeah.
I'm one of those.
Look, we're going to start somewhere. But basically why I call the topic a whole different world is for what you're interested in doing, with burlesque and in a sideshow drag performer. It is, in the most respectful way, it is very different in regards to, what a lot of people would be doing. And I think it's a very good thing to talk about as well, because coming from, background or coming from the perspective of someone who's never really seen drag or gone to a burlesque show, it's easy to have all these stereotypes of all these roadblocks of why I wouldn't want to go. But I guess where I'd like to start, Archie, is what actually got you into that field.
Well, I've always been a creative. I've played violin since I was, 7. And my little sister has danced. My bigger sister always danced. And then it's funny because both my parents were the exact opposite. They were very sporty. So when when they had, us who, were just musicians are like, well, we don't know what to do. But my little sister, so she is an incredible trans woman, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And she started doing drag. And I loved it. I just thought it was incredible. Just the makeup, the hair, the outfits are nuts. And just going and seeing her perform, because she used to train as a ballet dancer, like a male ballet dancer, because she was born as a man. And she ended up being 6'7". So by the time she was an early teenager, they just said, you're going to be too tall. And she was damaging her body endlessly. And so she did all other different types of dance. And then I think just the ability to combine them all is why she fell in love with them. Like, there's this safe space where you can just do what you want and be who you want. And no one's going to,
I love that.
Call you any names other than something that's, in jest.
Yeah.
And then I loved it. And then I found out through other ways that people who are born female, women can do it too. And so I just went, well, absolutely, yes. I mean, me, I love attention. Of course, I'm going to want to get up on stage in a fancy outfit. And and so I kind of just fell into it. And I started out mostly, I started doing some, feminine things first, because a big stereotype, I guess, in somebody doing drag is that a man dresses up as a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not always been the way. And the media has definitely portrayed it a certain way, and it may have been the old school way, but it's definitely evolved. It's about, even if it is a man dressing as a woman, it's they still don't look like women. They're the piss take on what we're told women are supposed to be.
No, absolutely.
Women are supposed to have long hair. Well, their hair's up here and way too long, and they're meant to have big eyelashes, so they wear crazy big eyelashes, and they have the biggest titties and the smallest waist, and they look ridiculous. I'm like, is this what you told? Is this what you want? This is what you said, right? It's all based in that. And then just became about creating characters. And so a big part of that is smashing the old notion that it's only men that can do it. And that's, and when I say that as well, that's very AMAB, assigned male at birth. That's, I'm not, haven't really gone into gender specifics yet. But anyway, so I started out mostly being male characters, because there weren't many people doing hyper male characters.
Yep.
And so I got to start just performing alongside these amazing drag queens. And then I started gender bending, because I damaged all the tissue in my chest from binding my chest too hard.
Wow. What do you mean by that?
So I'll bring this down. So I lost a whole heck of a lot of weight. And so I had a lot of excess skin. I lost 75 kilos.
Wow.
So I would still want to do open shirt looks like a man would. So I would grab my boobs and like hike them around the side and then tape them really far back underneath my armpits. So then my chest was flat. But then I would end up with welts by the end of the day and by the end of the night after performing. And I stretched all the skin, and then I actually damaged the tissue here.
Jesus.
You know, I couldn't do it anymore. And it was an old, friend of mine, a Brisbane legend called BB Gunn, that just said, get your tits out. People are going to love it anyway. Start gender bending. So I did, and that took off. And it kind of just went from there. I just kept changing and kept evolving. As soon as I gained weight back again, which is a whole other story, I became more comfortable being feminine. And then I really started embracing my size, and that, I'm big, I'm covered in scars, I'm covered in cellulite, I'm covered in everything. And most of us are. And if I can do it, anybody can.
I think you've just got to be so comfortable with yourself. Like we can look at all the extremities of what other people may want of you, or you want to look like someone else. But at the end of the day, as much, if you want to morph your body as much as you want, you're never going to look exactly like someone that you look up to.
I used to be like 140 kilos. I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm pretty big anyway.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I couldn't walk properly because I was an ex-dancer. Like, I used to compete in rockabilly and swing dancing, and I landed a jump wrong once and just tore my knee apart.
Jeez.
And then I also used to do roller derby, and that's how I did the other knee. And I was still big back then, but I was like cardio fit. I just really loved food. Yeah, it's got bigger and bigger until one day I just went, I can't do this. And so I had gastric sleeve surgery, but I had the worst kind of reaction to it, and I've just been sick ever since, and that was 6 years ago. But I lost 40 odd kilos from it, and then I became obsessed.
In terms of being obsessed with losing weight itself?
Yeah, so I stopped losing weight from the sleeve at about 40, after 40 kilos, because it's a tool, so it helps you. And if you don't look after yourself, it just grows back, and you just get big again. So it helps kickstart it, but you have to look after it. But I became obsessed, and my career, like, I just started my career as a performer. And so I trained several hours every day, also had a full-time job, and was on 300 calories a day till I started passing out. So I got down to, my hips were a size 10 because I just couldn't get any smaller there, but my top was like a size 4 to 6, and I was in kids' clothes.
Wow.
And you could like grab just all of my bones, and like my face, like I did like my face, it was like really chiseled.
Yeah.
But and I still hated it. Like, I wanted to get into the 50s. I got down to like 62 kilos, and about 20 kilos ago, I'd started lying about my weight to people, saying that I'll stop soon and that I was heavier than I was. And it got to the point where I started passing out. Yeah, I was still on like the lower side of healthy, and so I wanted to get underweight because I've been bullied my entire life for my weight. And until I just had a massive wake-up call.
Do you think that you were then, because of what you mentioned, that you were bullied because of your weight, and there's probably other things which may have been a reasoning for wanting to lose weight? Obviously, you wanted to do it for yourself as well, but I feel like you saying that you were kind of doing it to go, fuck you guys, look at me, look at me, look at me go.
It. So like a big part of it, and I think I lied at the start as well. Like, I did want to do it for my health, but also I wanted to do it so I could just feel what it was like to be hot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now, since I had excess skin removal, and it's funny, like, being like slowly gaining back weight was really hard at the start. And then I went on, another antidepressant for my mental health. And then I just gained 30 kilos in a couple of months. It was like my skin hurt. Like, I hurt from how quickly I gained weight. Everything just felt like I was awfully bloated all the time, no matter what I did. And then, I don't know, one day I just kind of looked at myself and went, man, I'm hot now. Like, I just one day just went, you know what? I actually love this for me. And I started getting booked a lot more, and people, commented just on how much happier I was.
People notice it. You might not pick up on it straight away, but as you said, you're getting booked out more because people can see and they can sense that you're happy with yourself. If you're a happy performer, people want to see you. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just performing to make money and you're enjoying it, but it's not the same.
Yeah. I got to the point of like, I burnt out so hardcore when I was really, really small as well. And so I was like crying while painting my face. And
Wow.
I was in so much pain that I would just get drunk every night that I was performing to be able to do it. And, you know, because my previous surgery gave me fibromyalgia, sorry. And so I was just in pain constantly, plus everything I did to it, plus having an eating disorder, plus also throwing up constantly.
When you're saying you're in so much chronic pain, like, can you describe that pain?
It's changed over the years, but I can just be sitting still.
Yeah.
And then it starts as like a heat. Like,
Right.
you know, when you sit in like a massage chair and it's got like warmth behind
Yeah.
it'll start like that. But then it very quickly gets not nice. And then it just becomes like this burning heat in my back that comes up to my shoulders. Or sometimes it starts in my shoulders. It's kind of wherever it wants to. Or sometimes my knees, or sometimes it just feels like I've been tasered. Like I get like this really weird electrical pains.
So like pins and needles?
Yeah. Like the only way I can describe it, because it's like this shooting pain. So I've got arthritis in my hands. I got it at 16. And I'll have like this weird pain here or here. And all of a sudden it'll feel like it'll just go woof, and then it'll just shoot up my arm. There's no technical reason why fibromyalgia can happen.
Yeah.
They say it's more of a neurological thing, but mine was triggered, they say, by a big medical trauma, which is me having the gastric sleeve surgery. So normally with gastric sleeve, you're on liquids for 2 weeks, puree for 2 weeks, and then soft solids, and then you can eat. Whereas I was on liquid for 6 months because I just couldn't handle anything. And then I was on puree for another 8 months.
Wow.
And then the first like almost solid thing that I could eat was a tiny little bit of Doritos. And then I managed to live off cold mashed potato for a while. And then the first time I got to eat anything just remotely warm or hot was after a year.
Yeah, that's not living.
I became afraid of eating. And yeah, like I've only got my front teeth. All of the back teeth are completely gone now from reflux and from when I would vomit. So like there is so many things with eating disorders that people don't know, like it lasts.
I honestly never would have picked that up. There'd be so many people, like I never thought of the reflux.
Yeah, the reflux was just so insane, and I'm on like almost chemo grade anti-nausea tablets. On top of all that, massive gender dysphoria as well. So I identify as non-binary, and I truly thought I was a trans man for a long time as well, especially with how skinny I was getting. I only felt attractive if I presented masculine.
Right.
I just didn't feel pretty as a woman anymore. And because I made my career out of being this hypersexual man as well, so I was always done up in some form of makeup, and I had lace front beards, and I looked like a dude, like, you know, all these characters and that. It's the only time I felt attractive. And so, you know, when I had my skin removal surgery, I got almost all my breasts removed as well. Because I was like, you know, I might have the odd feminine day, but I mostly feel like a man. And I would swap every couple of days. So some days I would wake up and I'd have fake nails on and be like, get these off me. Like I feel, and I would start panicking, being like, I'm not a woman. I can't do this. And I wanted to go on testosterone. And then other days I would wake up and I'm like, God, I'm so ugly. Why did I shave my head? Like, I just want to be pretty.
When did this come? Like this thought come to mind that you would be classified as non-binary?
So it's funny. It wasn't actually me that first realized I was. I got nominated for a non-binary person of the year award.
Oh.
And I went, oh, I never thought about it. Yeah, no, that suits me real well. Yeah. At the time, I probably pigeonholed myself a lot more and went with genderqueer, because I would just like more fluid, because I would wake up some days and feel really masculine. So I'd have a masculine wardrobe. And then other days I would wake up feeling really feminine. But yeah, like as I gained weight back, I started feeling more feminine again. And then with that came part of the guilt of, oh, was I just pretending? I wasn't, but you have all those self-doubts. I've always found it super important to talk about mental health and pain and just any sort of stigma that there is, especially like expectations on men growing up and women growing up as well. And then, yeah, as I, started getting a bit bigger, I also became more confident in myself, which kind of showed in my performances.
Just kind of showing your true colors. When you become confident, it's kind of like the way I like to look at it is like when you're back at school. I don't know if it was the same for yourself, but you'd have your more popular group, your academic group, sporty group, and then like you might like out of character, you'll do something to impress the popular group. So you improve your status, but then after a while, like when you leave school, it's like no one gives a fuck, and then you
yeah,
like
it's like, and some people you just like, you peaked.
yeah, no, exactly. No, exactly. But you build your own confidence when you leave school and you go, I don't really care what, X, Y, and Z have to think about me because I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, like I just turned 30 last year in October. I just went, you know what? I'm going to start celebrating my dirty 30s a year early, and I'm just going to stop giving a fuck.
How
And it
good.
was the best decision I ever made. It was amazing.
This is the biggest thing with bullying at school because I've asked someone this question, someone who I've seen bully someone before, and you go, so why do you bully someone? They go, oh, because it's funny, and then like it's like you go to the next step. So why do you classify as funny? Because I'm putting him down, and it makes me look like the bigger person. And you continue on the cycle, and there's no definitive answer. It's like
It
exactly.
starts in prep, bullying. It starts so young. And like it can even start as early as he's playing with a girl's toy. And it's like,
Exactly.
who taught you that there's girls' toys and boys' toys?
I
Why
know.
can't you just
I
let
don't.
them be happy?
I don't know why it matters. I just want to backtrack to what you were saying before about the whole gastric sleeve thing. So from an outsider's perspective, for someone who has quite a bit of weight on them, is it why can't you just go to the stage of like seeing a personal trainer, seeing a nutritionist, or why as opposed to going to that extreme step of getting the gastric sleeve?
So there are several options, like there's several reasons.
Mm,
So reason number one, I like to believe and I guess like to hope that it's the least used one.
yeah.
And it's just that it is easier. However, doesn't mean it's easy. It really should be used as a tool. Like, yes, here's a little kickstart for you. So here's your motivation. You see it works. Now you need to keep this up. You have to see a dietitian and you have to see a therapist. You have to, because when I looked in the mirror, even at 65 kilos,
Yeah.
I still saw 140 kilo me.
Wow.
And I got rid of any evidence online anywhere of old me.
Why do you think in general people struggle to go and see someone, go and see a health professional? Because there's all these stereotypes. It's like, oh, maybe because you're weak, all this sort of stuff. Whereas I've been through that now, and I see it that you can only get something out of it. If you see someone and he's not right for you or she's not right for you, then you continue to look and you find someone or you find something that will work for you.
Yeah, there's so many different reasons. Like, because even like back in the day, I mean, I would have been lobotomized a long time ago. Or they were like, here's cocaine. Uh, but like, especially in like, the 50s and things like that, it'd be like, did you hear? She's going to therapy,
It's nuts.
you
It was
know?
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. And like doctors can tell the husbands everything. But it's also movies have done it, like therapy is not sitting on a couch talking about your early childhood. That's actually called psychotherapy. And usually you need to do a whole bunch of work first before you can go do psychotherapy. And there's different forms of like behavior therapies, like cognitive behavior therapy and dialectical behavior therapy. So I haven't done cognitive behavior therapy, which is the most common. I've done dialectical, which is about monitoring your emotions and finding a happy medium, because if you get really stressed and anxious about something, one side of your brain is freaking out about all the things that can happen. And then you have this other side of your brain that's like, you're overreacting and you're being a dickhead. Just calm down, which makes them go more crazy. Being like, what do you mean? What am I doing?
Yeah, you
And
get
so then
more
it's finding
anxious.
that. So then you just like, it's okay to feel this way. It's what you're going to do about it.
When we go back to inclusivity and just being yourself, and I mean this in the most respectful way because I'm just coming from the perspective of other people that would be wanting to know this. For a trans person, why not go through the whole sex change process? Why is it that they need to dress up as the opposite sex?
I feel that's a big one because everybody's different. So my journey didn't start until I was already in my mid-20s, but I do have a lot of trans friends, a lot. Some people I call family are transgender.
Yeah.
And it can start from really young, or it can start, at any age, but it usually starts with a feeling. I remember my little sister, Aurora, so incredibly cute, but even when they were younger, they just wanted to dress up in mine and mum's clothes, and they wanted to wear wigs, and they said their name was Jade. That was in kindy. They just knew it was never right. And then, they, came out as, gay when they were younger, and they definitely came out of their shell. Everybody knew. They really blossomed when they started doing drag. And for some people, drag is just enough. It's just some fun. And then you take it off at the end of the night and you're yourself again. You just started feeling more you and more comfortable as that character until you started hating being yourself. And it just kind of clicks. Like, shit, man, this is what I was supposed to be. Like, I finally found what was wrong. There has been something wrong my entire goddamn life. And I finally know what it is. I can finally feel complete. And not every trans person's journey is the same. Like, you don't have to have had the chop and overlock you don't have to go on hormones, because that's kind of straight society's opinion of you. Like, you don't have to be passing, but that's the thing. That's society's problem. Why should we have to look twice at somebody? Why should somebody have to feel like they pass? But, like, breast surgery costs a lot. Everything costs a lot. And then obviously makeup, hair, outfits, and then being afraid to go walk out in the street. People throughout the world feel that. Women feel like that walking alone at night.
Because I was actually talking to someone, would have been maybe a couple months back, about walking by yourself as a woman at night. The idea of holding, the car keys out just in case, because you are always, waiting for something to possibly happen.
I didn't experience that until I got smaller. I never used to get catcalled. And then as I got smaller, that's when I started getting it. And I still get so riled up. I'm like, this is bullshit. Is this what every female has to put up with all their life? I'm not putting up with this. So I'm a fighter. Like, it's will
ridiculous.
Go off at you. But that's the thing. I have learned to fight. I have learned how to defend myself. It was one of the first things my dad ever taught me, because he was a karate sensei. And then, but also because he's 6'4" and built like a brick shithouse, I had to know how to get away from a man that size. And he was just like, I'm never going to have to protect you against, like, I'm never going to have to worry about you bringing balls home, because you're going to be able to beat the shit out of me yourself. But I can't protect myself against 2 or 3.
No.
And like walking, like, I used to be on the phone to my ex-husband when I walked home from work because I was terrified.
It's terrible.
And I, last year, was it this year? No, it was this year. I was in West End and I walked down to go to my car, and 3 men followed me.
What?
And I just walked to go to my car from a convenience store.
And did they say anything
and
to you?
I was actually wearing this dress, and they commented on the size of my ass. Like, yes, it's astronomically huge, but you don't need to tell me that. There is so much gay bashing still going on. And trans women trying to walk out the door. Like, 1, they're a woman. 2, they look like a freak. They get that yelled at them. And then if you want to go one step further, a trans woman of color.
I don't get it. Why, like, if someone's happy being who they are, that there's got to be someone that puts them down or goes to the next step of, like, beating them up because they don't feel like that's the way that society should work. It's fucked. And I think it comes back to, and forgive me if I say this wrong, LGBTQIA+. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I get a bit confused with this because there are a lot of letters. So how do they find, like, a gender to add to the ABCs of the category?
Like, it's up to how people want to identify themselves. Like, I have noticed, especially in email communication, because as soon as I talk, you can tell that I'm, a female. I do have a low voice for a female, but I'm still one. But as soon as I changed my name to Archie, man, people started treating me differently because they assumed I was a man.
Really?
Oh
Really?
yeah. Oh, so
Wow.
much differently, which is why I don't have any sort of feminine things on my resume.
So you think there is still a gender problem when going for jobs?
Oh, hugely. Absolutely, yes. I get so many more callbacks when people think I'm a man,
Wow.
especially with my level of experience in things.
Isn't that just fucked? Like I don't. Again,
Yeah, it's funny because
I'm
like
yeah,
you've never witnessed it. And but the
oblivious
thing
to
is,
it.
you are incredibly aware of your privilege as a white, I assume, straight male, and you're using that power to talk about things. You're using that privilege for good because it'd be very easy to keep your head in the sand.
Because you come from a different sort of background or an upbringing where you weren't as gifted as someone else. Like, why does it matter that whatever their story is or their journey was, that we have to put them in one corner and treat them a certain way? Like it baffles me. And again, yeah, that's why I'm trying to create something out of this, because more or less what you call like a safe space, just for people to just express something. And you know, if people hate what I do, I don't give a shit because they don't have to. I'm not forcing anyone to listen to this. All I'm wanting to do is to get people to listen in that might be able to find relatability out of something that someone said. One more thing I'd love to ask you before we end this is the BDSM scene. I know you've done a bit of work in BDSM.
I've worked in the fetish scene a bit. It's so much more common than people have any idea about, but it's so people get so funny about it. I mean, people think that kinky is 50 shades of grey, whereas
Yeah.
technically that's really actually just abuse. Like he bypasses any of her consent, any of her safe words. Like that's a 101 in what not to do in a relationship. But people from all walks of life are into it. Now, I've only worked very minimally, I guess, compared to a lot of other people in it.
Mm,
But there's a lot of events that can just introduce you to it, and they
mm,
are very safe spaces. You're not allowed your phone there because what if you take a photo of someone whose job doesn't know, or if a picture gets out and their family sees it and they're incredibly judgmental. There's always chill out spaces. There's always places if you just want to be told what it is or
mm.
why some people might enjoy it. And like people do play throughout, like but it depends on like I guess like the caliber or what legality they're allowed. So there's lots of people with different kinks. Like if you're into dressing like a schoolgirl and getting told off sitting behind a desk, cool, there's places that will let you do that. Same as like shibari or suspension is so beautiful in the way that it can be done,
Yeah.
and just the look of bliss on somebody's face as well. If people cannot be like, look at that, it looks so fucking weird. Like you can see the beauty in it. It's not all just weird penetrative sex everywhere. Like that's not what it's about. It's about a safe space for people with all different tastes to come together. And I've done shows at them, where I've done fire or used my angle grinder, and they are the most accepting place. Also, what I love is that that's the safest space for me to be and not get harassed
Just be yourself.
because they consent is the number one thing in these spaces. Consent. Like nobody will touch me. I had a guy smack my ass once. I had him kicked out and I grabbed him, and got him thrown out.
Use your karate moves.
And there's like so many different things. Like I remember the end of the night, like I'd finished performing, so I wasn't doing anything dangerous. I got drunk off my tits on mimosas, was sitting in a hot tub, completely nude, talking to another awesome dude about hot rods while I was eating Doritos.
Fuck yeah. How good.
And this was at a swingers event, and we're just talking about hot rods. Like not a single sexual thing between us. Like these things aren't always sexual, but it was just fun. Like I was not scared in the slightest. I was just living my best life eating Doritos in a hot tub.
I can see the appeal in it because if you've got that full consensual sort of community vibe and you can just be whoever you want to be, there's if you're interested in one thing, as you said, there's an area for that and you can go and see that.
And
I
it's
think
great if people want to learn together because there's different like people like say people like spanking, right? And obviously it's gotten a lot more common, thank God. People aren't so scared all the time. But if you hit on the wrong spot, you could really hurt somebody. If you hit too low and you get their thigh, or if you hit too high and you get their back, it's just going to hurt in a bad way. So like, you could watch somebody being spanked and you could ask a question like, where do I hit them? What sort of firmness should I hit them with? You know?
I need to learn. I'm a novice.
And if you have like a, trusting, open partner, that's fine. Like, my partner doesn't go to these things with me, has no interest whatsoever. That's totally fine, but trusts me to go do my job and then come home.
How do you actually, because I've no idea how you would find an event like this. From what I've been told, it's very difficult to get into one of these BDSM events.
Well, there's a lot of private events for people who are in the community already.
Right, okay, yeah.
Totally understandable. Because the last thing you want is someone there being like, oh, look at that. Like, there's a couple of places that I like Hellfire is really good for beginners, I'd say, if you just want to have a bit of a look. And that's at the Sportsman's Hotel downstairs, and they, put on events, I think, once a month. I haven't been there in a long time, actually. But like, the thing is like, if you're a dickhead in any way, there is no hesitation for you to be thrown out and banned for life. Like, because you're in somebody else's space, you have to be respectful. I am constantly learning new things every day when it comes to mental health, when it comes to dealing with my own, or how to talk to other people. Actually, I saw, where was it? It was like mental health CPR course.
Really? What's that?
It was like what to do in a crisis. And I was like, this looks amazing. It was like a 2-day course or something. And it was like how to deal with somebody who's having a mental health crisis.
That's insane.
Amazing. Like, every manager at every workplace should do that training. I want to do that training. That looks excellent. Have you ever seen Paris is Burning?
No, what's that?
No. So it originated, like, oh crap, my history. So it originated quite a while ago and then became popular in the 80s. And it was a very underground thing for especially people of color, but it was open for everybody. But it's where they could finally be themselves, and they would have these massive balls, and it's like, so trans women of color, they would dress up and, you'd walk and get your tens, which is, how good you were at something. And like, there was all these different styles of dancings and runway, and it just grew into this incredible culture, and it's just mind-blowing. And I loved going to learn the history behind some of the dancing, but I just wanted to learn the history mostly, because for once, just that one night, they got to be it. They got to be what everybody wanted to be, and the most beautiful and safe for once. If you see a trans girl walking down the street, just give them a little nod, because you know how brave they are for that day. If you see somebody on the bus or about to get on the bus and they look nervous, just gently let them know that they can sit next to you. The more we can do that, and the more we can start smashing these ideas of what we're supposed to be like, then we can truly start to heal. Like, we'll never be able to atone for the trauma that we've put generations through, but we can try now. And as long as it's with the right intention, as long as we don't go in with the intention of, well, hopefully they'll forgive me one day. That's not why we do it. We do it because we want to be, decent humans, because that's how I want to be treated. That's how I want my sister to be treated, and my family to be treated. And, it's the world I want my children to grow up in.
You want to be like, it wants to be, a fully accepted world where, we look at it back in 10, 15 years time, and we'll be laughing at these situations going, why the fuck were they ever a big deal? I really appreciate you taking up your time, Archie, just being so openly expressive, just talking about, some of the things you've been through, just talking about, the different world of burlesque dancing and drag show performing. If anyone's wanting to have a look at your shows, come to one of your shows, or just reach out to you, what's the best way of doing that, Archie?
I've just started actually using Facebook again. So you can look me up on my Facebook page, which is Archie Arsenic, just like the poison. And then I'm on Instagram as well of Archie Arsenic. And then my email is just archiearsenic@gmail.com. And I'm always happy to have a chat about things. And I openly share constantly on social media about mental health, about pain, about resources I find as well that might help, or if I've learnt something new. because, I have been an incredibly toxic person in the past. And my God, it's a really hard brick in the face to learn and to unlearn things. And so I talk about it on there too.
Just try to start a conversation and from there just to build something for people that may struggle to find their own voice.
Yeah.
But guys, this has been season 3, episode 14 of Couch to the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. The topic I went over today was a whole different world, and that was with Archie Arsenic. And as always, guys, if you want to reach out to me, just hit me up on www.couchtothemind.com. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll speak to you guys soon. Catch you later. If you guys enjoyed this episode and you're after more Couch to the Mind content, feel free to check us out on Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, and many other audio platforms. And as always, guys, if you need anything, feel free to message me on the Couch to the Mind Facebook page. Thanks again for tuning in.